Well, I just made a video talking about a lot of different shit. It started out talking about communism and capitalism and shit and ended up drifting into shit that had to go to Rumble. So if you want to go see that, go to Rumble. My point on that video was that we don't live under capitalism because basically every single time that we have a capitalist system, it creates a fucking like what's it called? Monopoly, king, whatever, that they they buy the market and they start making the rules because they own the banks and they own the government. And that's what's happened in America. Like there's different waves of shit that did that, but like early on the interest of the colonies were the tobacco plantations and cotton plantations in the south, and in the north it was mostly a fishing industrial kind of center. Like they built boats, they chopped lumber down and sold it to England, and they went whaling and like all this kind of shit, which was big business back in the day. Okay, our founding fathers were tobacco planters and cotton planters and shipwrights, and like Alexander Hamilton, if I remember right, had a fleet of vessels that he used to trade with England or whatever. And there was a couple of other guys in the founding fathers that were like that. That basically they already had their own navies because they were international business tycoons of their era. Right? Problem is that any one of those things that I just said is something that you or I might go start. Since then, there have been waves of industrialization that have dramatically affected this shit. And like you have the big gun makers were some of the first industry really to pop up, and they were big political shit back in the day, much more so than they are now. Like Colt and Smith and Wesson and Winchester, you know, I don't know if they played politics necessarily, but there was not shit going against them. Put it that way. They were like the thing propping up entire fucking states. Shortly after that, there's textile revolutions and shit like that that happened, and then, industrial manufacturing on like everything became a thing all over like the Northeast, and those companies came to power, right? Around the same time, oil and banking became real fucking big. Electrical power generation became real fucking big. And those companies are the ones that really took over everything slowly. Since then, there's been a couple of other, like, especially with the fucking tech revolution in like the 90s, there were new players in the game that had as much power as the old players. And it seems to me that these new players were mostly in the Davos crowd or some shit. Like they were owned by somebody, or they got owned by somebody, because eventually they needed money. So all of the big tech shit is really linked to the banks that own them at some level. There's no business in operation in the world that doesn't have a, healthy fear of the bank. I think that's even true of Google and Facebook and shit like that. Anyway, I don't know why we can't have a fucking capitalist system that works. I guess it's not in human nature. Yeah, and this is the thing that everybody always says about communism is like, the communists are like, it just hasn't been done right. You don't know. And they're like, they don't get that humans are humans and they're going to do what humans do. The capitalists are exactly the same. Well, we don't live under real capitalism. We live under crony capitalism. Blah, 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 blah. That's the same as we haven't ever had real communism. We haven't ever had real capitalism. Fuck you guys. Like, you're just wrong. Admit that you're wrong. There's got to be another option. I don't know what that option is, but it's very clearly not what we have been doing in the past. And this is what I've been like talking about on this channel for like a while now. I've made videos exactly like this one that you're listening to now. I know. I don't know what they were called. But there's got to be a new thing made. Something that's not either. Like, obviously we need some sort of a social network to keep people from, like, dying in the streets and shit. I think that's, is what it is. The problem is, the second that you do that, people start wanting to expand it because they're buying votes. And maybe it should be that if you're on if you're on political assistance, if you're on financial assistance, that you don't get a vote. Because then you can't be bought. I don't know. Maybe voting is for free men. Like, honestly, I think in order to vote in this country, you should have to own an acre of land and have been born here. Everyone else isn't a citizen. If we're going to divide things up along fucking, like, lines, how about that instead of rich and poor? Make it fair. Give everyone an equal vote that has a right to have an equal vote. As far as owning an acre of land, I think you should have to have some sort of stock in this fucking country or some shit. Maybe that's just me. And the other thing that would need to happen for this is these corporations that own giant fucking tracts of land and all of the government land out west. I'm not saying it should all be like chopped up and turned into suburbs or whatever, but if someone wants to go build a fucking homestead out there, they should be able to. Keep it very population low. Something. Make it to where, like, restrict that what that can be. Like, it's never anything more than like a horse ranch. There's a whole bunch of people that don't have anything that would kill to just go build a fucking shack with a fucking horse corral next to it out in some of these government lands. I would. It's a hell of a lot better than sitting around all this shit. There's giant fucking parts of Alaska that are fucking closed off because of the wilderness. And, like, I don't know what the answer is on fucking having wild places left. Seems like we could do better about that. But the answer isn't just letting the government own all that land and restrict that no one can ever do anything there until they sell it to the Chinese. Because that's what's going on. Anyway, our government sucks. I'm not sure this video has a point, really. Seems like we're doomed to repeat this pattern in America of basically there being two groups of us and we don't much like each other. Now, you don't get that. You've never studied the history of the colonies. The colonies were two distinct groups of people. One was a bunch of king's men that were doing agricultural colonies in the South, and the other was a bunch of fucking religious nuts that were just desperate to go anywhere that wasn't fucking England. And they have their own problems. And all of their problems are the problems of the Democrats right now. They were the ones that when they came to this country had witch trials and burned people at the stake. And that's because there were actual witches doing actual black magic there. That's another thing people don't understand is like people look at those witch trials and shit, and like there were some fucking innocent people that got witch trialed by the fucking mob of the Democrats. There were also legit Democrats that were witches doing shit that caused them to start doing that in the first place. I think these people are fucking evil. I think they practice black magic. I mean, look at what they do. Like, it's pretty clear that, like, the evil pedophile murder cabal banking CIA shit is real. Like, I don't know what all's involved in that, but that party at Davos that all those rich fucks went to, I guarantee you had child slaves at it. That's why they have it in Europe. That's why they have their own fucking giant police force. They don't have any regular cops there. If you call the cops there, you get the Davos police. It's convenient, eh? Anyway, let's just make this a long one, I guess. Let's smoke. Church is chilling under a sleeping bag. It was cold the other night, and I pulled out a old sleeping bag, and he's just fallen in love with it. He's a sweet lovey. I keep coming in here and finding him like just curled up in the foot bag of it. It's a mummy style bag with a foot in it. So it's like a little cave for him to sleep in. He's just sleeping under it right now, next to me. Aren't you, buddy? I kind of want to like figure out a way to not smoke around him, but I don't have a way to do that right now. I'm not sure that weed is good for cats. I didn't worry about it for forever because he seemed to enjoy being high. But I don't know. He's starting to get a little older, and I don't know that it's necessarily good for him. This is where, like, you're like, maybe you should stop vaping weed. Well, yeah, there's that in there. Honestly, I want a better drug, but there's nothing out there. Like, I don't know what I want to be able. I want something that I can just vape all the time, that just makes you feel fucking euphoric and awesome. I don't care if it's weed or if it's fucking, something else. Really, like something that has no health effects would be nice. This is where like I think weed has it over a lot of shit, right? I bought a knife on Amazon that I think I'm gonna send back. Let's go to Knife Chat. So I ordered a Duke knife. You can search that's Douk. And I had the impression that these knives were much larger. It's a tiny little thing, and as that, like I'm like, eh. And I got the full size one, not the mini one. And believe it or not, there's a smaller one. That's where I was like, okay. It's like a 3.5 inch blade, and really it's like a 3 inch blade with almost a half inch of just dead space at the end of it. I don't know. I'm very disappointed in it. I found out that they made a giant Duke, which is 4.5 inches. That is probably more my speed, so I might return it and get that. Supposed to have a little Imperial Barlow delivered today from eBay. Got a couple other knives coming in that I ordered. It's sad that I have to send one back. Like, I don't know what I'm going to use that money for on Amazon. I'm probably going to get one of the other knives I was looking at, but like, I don't know. I could get a Swiss Army knife, or I could get a Higonakame, or I could get a few other things. I'm just trying to like fill out like a little collection of all the kind of stuff that I enjoy in pocket knives to have a sampling of stuff to pick from, basically. I plan to add a couple of Spydercos and a Benchmade and a few Balisongs eventually. Like the Spydercos, my buddy Blazer has a Endura 4 in ZDP 189 that I gave him that he was going to give back to me. He's like, I don't ever use this thing, and I imagine it's sentimental to you. And like, I would kill to have that thing back. And he's like, happy birthday. So whenever we see each other again, he's going to give me that thing. In addition to that, I want to get a Manix 2 in translucent blue because I know where I can get one at a good price, and I forgot about it, and I just need to do that. And it's one of my favorite models of Spyderco. And I do want to have some representatives of like different companies that I've enjoyed over the years. And for Benchmade, I think I'm going to try to find a Benchmade Weekender. I found a used one for 150 bucks a couple months ago, and I just didn't have the money. That tells me that that can be had though, because that's a knife that on the used market is probably not worth what it is new. Let's put it that way. And I kind of want the Benchmade slip joint. I don't know, it might change my mind about that. The last Benchmade I had was an OTF that I ended up deciding I could get damn good money for, so I went and did that. I got it for free. A guy tossed it in with an FAL I bought. And I was like, okay, thanks. Like, how much of this shit is stolen? Anyway, the OTF I took to a pawn shop I know that does a lot of knives, and I got $250 out of it, which for something I had nothing in, big win. But it was like a $450 fucking out the front. And like in hindsight, I should have just kept that as my Benchmade, but I don't know. I didn't really like it that much, and I needed the $250 at that particular moment. So no regrets. I'm honestly not that big of a fan of automatics, and really not a fan of OTFs, really. Like, they're too expensive for what they are. I find that they break all the time. They get worn up and torn up, and no one ever pays you what they're worth. It's just like throwing several $100s down the fucking hole. That's why that guy gave it to me. I've tried to sell OTFs around here. I knew where to go because I don't know. I know a lot about knives or what, I guess. Like every pawn shop I go to, I look at their knife selection and I know who's into what. And I guarantee you that ended up in the pocket of the old man that owns that place. You can't really sell automatic knives around here. I say that you can. It's fully legal. All of the pawn shops around here are like so looked at by the police that they think that switchblades are illegal, so they don't deal in them. This is a lawyer thing. It's 100% a lawyer thing. And there's 2 pawn shops around here that I know that will, maybe a third up on the north side that's kind of real sketchy. But these are the pawn shops that I go to. I support the ones that do knife shit. These are also usually decent gun places too. The one is a giant gun emporium in addition to being a cool knife shop, and that's Green Country Arms, Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you want to find that, Green Country Gun and Pawn, something like that. It's the one in Tulsa though, not the one in Pryor. The one in Pryor is owned actually by a family friend of mine. We always set up with them at gun shows. He died a little while back. It's kind of sad, but anywho, I need to get a Benchmade, but I don't know what I'm going to get. And like, I've always wanted an Osborne. So if I can't get the Weekender, I might get an Osborne. But I'm not going to buy it new. I'm going to buy it used off of eBay. And my reasoning stands on that I will not support Benchmade. They're a shitty company. I don't know how I'm going to title this with all this knife chat just thrown in here. I'll have to, like, say, you know, bullshit and knives or something. I don't know. I also kind of want to get the new Spyderco military with the compression lock. I always liked the military, but I did not like its lock. There's several things I didn't like about the military, and they fixed all of them in the paramilitary too, but it's small, and I wanted a big one. And now they're making the full-size military, so I might break down and get one of those eventually. But this is, I think that's a $130 knife, which, in today's market, there's so many people making fucking knives that are $400. It's insane. The collective knife community started like one-upping each other on social media. Like, this was when I was growing up, even this shit was starting. But there's a whole bunch of people that like don't ever use these knives. They just like, they're like pocket jewelry. They have a jewelry case that they keep their knives in. I have a tackle box I keep my knives in. I own shit to use that I also enjoy. I like having functional pocket jewelry, and it annoys me to speak to people that spend $500 on non-functional pocket jewelry, I guess. It's not non-functional. It's just I wouldn't ever use it because the second that you use that, it's worth $5. On a lot of shit, maybe not everything. If you take care of it and use it well on a $500 like Chris Reeves, assuming that you don't tear it up, too bad. But it gets some like just wear and tear as knives do. You're probably taking a good $100 to $200 hit on that knife. If you carry it in your pocket with keys and change, you're taking a $400 hit on that knife. So I would encourage you to buy $50 knives. Yes, like my upper limit these days is probably like $300. I wouldn't spend over $300 on a knife, and honestly, my plan is never to spend much more than $50 to $100. Like I said, that Benchmade that I want to get, whichever one I decide on, and the couple of Spydercos I want to get, because I do legitimately like some Spydercos. That's all of the like $150 to $200 range I'm going to get. Both of the Spydercos that I want are basically $150, $130. The Benchmade is probably going to be, I'm going to find a used beat to fuck Osborne maybe on eBay. See what that goes for. I might do that and just keep an eye out for the Weekender. I've never owned a Benchmade Osborne. That's why that model. It's one of their classic ones, and it was in green, but it was always so expensive, and I never had the money, and just it wasn't a priority, and it's not a very big knife. It's one of those things that had they made the Osborne XL, I would have bought it. But like, this is part of the thing is I actually have pretty big hands. I'm 6'5", and I have big hands. They're big girly hands. I mean, like, I don't know. Hormones have been fucking amazing to my hands, to be honest, and wrists. Like, look at that shit. My arms did not used to look like that. Thank you, estrogen. But as such, I tend to like a bigger knife. I think a bigger pocket knife is better usually anyway. Like, I like knives in the 4 to 6 inch range. Some of the cold steel stuff lights my wick, to be honest. Always has. It's big. Like, this is where, a 3-inch fucking blade has its place for, like, cutting strings and shit. Don't get me wrong. But as what I use a pocket knife for, I'd like a bigger blade usually, and like even in like case knives, I like a bigger blade in case knives because I have bigger hands and like it's uncomfortable to hold smaller knives. Like this doesn't seem crazy to me, but it seems crazy to the knife industry, I guess, because 95% of knives are made with fucking handles that suck for me. I literally have to go buy the XL versions of shit in order to find stuff that I like usually. Like, for example, Spyderco makes the Tenacious, right? I bought the Tenacious and Resilience at the same time thinking hopefully they'll both be, good sized for me or whatever. And I wish I had never bought the Tenacious. Everybody else raves about the Tenacious. Everybody else raves about the Delica. And I'm just sitting over here with the Resilience and the Endura and the full-size military and going, you know, the Endura is really too small. So, I don't know, maybe that's just me. Also, it doesn't seem to affect me whether I have a 2-ounce pocket knife or a 4-ounce pocket knife, or a pocket knife is this long or a pocket knife is that long. It's just carrying the knife. Like, I might carry multiple blades if I have my bag with me, if I have my purse. If it's just me, I'll probably have a fucking wallet and keys and phone thrown in my girl pants pockets that barely hold anything. And then in with the keys, I'll have some sort of blade thrown in. And this is why I mentioned about, shit going into your pocket with your keys. My shit goes in my pocket with my keys a lot because I can't have it rattling around with my phone. So my knives and shit get torn up a bit. And honestly, makes them look like Boba Fett. I like them. And this is the other thing is I actually sharpen my shit and actually use my shit. I'm blown away at how many people spend exorbitant amounts of money on knives and super steels because the reality is they don't know how to sharpen a knife. You can learn how to do this pretty quick. It's not hard. Go watch other videos on it. I found a case trapper that I want. It's in 1095 burlap micarta. To get that soon. I really want to get that like next. It looks dope, and I think they're almost out of them. And like for me, there's only 2 patterns of case knife that I'm really interested in. It's the full-size trapper and the large stockman. Those are both knives with like 4-inch handles that, like, of tiny pocket knives, they're the ones that I prefer. I've never understood someone that is like, man, I want to carry a peanut. Like, I don't know. The little Barlow I bought is small. This is the thing is a lot of the knives I just bought are kind of on the smaller side, but they're mostly just things that like I want to play with and have shit in the collection or whatever. Like the Barlow is, I used to have one of those and I sold it for $20 at a gun show, and they're only worth about $20. I miss having one, and it's a old knife that I could easily replace, so I did. The little 1960s Imperial Barlows that are $20 on eBay are pretty damn good knives. They're much better than most shit that you can buy now, in my opinion. They have some like shitty cheap bolsters on them, usually. But the rest of the knife is fine. It's one of those things like, are you looking for an heirloom or are you just looking to have a Barlow? I don't know. That was the one that I had before, so I found one again. I also ordered a Kershaw Culpepper in copper. I'm excited to get that thing. I've had that on my like wish list for a while, and I decided to say fuck it and order it with all of this shit because I got the Kershaw Culpepper, a Duke, a Charade hunting and fishing knife, and the Barlow. And the Schrade hunting and fishing knife is like a Duke that Schrade made, and they marketed it at Fisherman. It has a fish scaler on the back of it, and you can lock it out so you can use the fish scaler. It's cool. I'm probably gonna keep that thing and send the Duke back. Maybe get the giant Duke. Also, I'm starting to become uncomfortable with the amount that I'm saying Duke. It's a bad name for a knife. They are cool little knives, though. I like old school foreign knife designs. They're usually very utilitarian and cheap, but super functional and like have some charm to them. I don't know what it is. Like the Japanese Hiyo Nakami is the other perfect example of this. It's a sheet metal handle on a friction folding carbon steel blade. There's nothing fancy about it. I think that's why the Duke appeals to me. It's kind of in the same vein. I can't wait to see the hunting and fishing knife from Schrade. I'm hoping I like that thing. It looks bigger than a Duke. Hard to tell. No one ever fucking says the size of anything when they sell it on fucking eBay for some reason. I think it's because it sells your shit better if people don't know. People can go, well, that's only a 3.5-inch blade. I don't want it. It might lose you sales or some shit. I don't know. I keep looking at GEC knives too. Like I would like to get one of those just to see what the hype is about. Never had one. I kind of figure I don't know, I might wait on it until after I get everything else I want. I'd hate to buy a GEC and then just only want to buy those. The GEC that I'd buy right now, I was looking around and there's not, the thing that annoys me about GEC is basically that they have the business model that they have, which is we make like 5 knives and fuck you if you can't figure out how to buy them. Okay, I'm going to go shop from Case. This is where if I might do like the Benchmade thing where like I buy one just to say I have one. I would say I'd buy one used, but all of the fucking GECs on eBay are like $400 or $500. It's insane. Because it's like, I don't know. The same people that collect knickknacks are collecting those knives. You're competing with grandma or some shit. Grandpa. I will never understand buying a $500 knife, really, but I will definitely never understand paying $500 for a $100 knife. Just because it's this variation of it. This one is the colonial pattern, Henry. We have to get this one. It has Martha Washington on it. That's how you people fucking look. I just want to buy a GEC Stockman, a big one. That doesn't exist, basically. If that did exist, it's on eBay and it's $1,000. So I was looking through a couple of websites that had them new, like at reasonable prices, and I found fruit knives that they make that nobody wants, apparently, because there were 3 or 4 variations of them. They're only $150. I had a fruit knife when I was a kid. That it was a Bagwell Produce fruit knife. I always liked the fruit knives because they're like a 5-inch blade. They're big. They're little skinny, like cutting oranges in half kind of thing. It's what you'd use when you were buying produce. Because when you inspect a batch of oranges, apparently you slice them in half and look at them, I guess. I don't really know. I just thought it was a cool knife because it was big. And it's kind of it's a really slim pen knife, but it's long. It has a long handle on it. It's cool. I think it's cool. Might get one of those eventually if they're still in stock, but this is the thing with those, those won't still be in stock by the time that I get around to buying one. And in reality, I have car parts and gun parts and shit to buy. I was going to do a little knife shopping spree again because I'm just doing those every once in a while. Basically, whenever I feel that like the world is going to fucking end to the point that like it doesn't matter if I have car parts, I order pocket knives. It's my philosophy. You know, I try not to do that much, but you gotta live, right? A little. And like for me, the most enjoyable thing in life is pocket knives. Like it always has been. Well, that's not entirely true. The whole dick thing, that's true. But aside from dick, there's pocket knives. Trying to think of what other knives I've been looking at. I found the Case Stockman I'm gonna get, I think. They have one in 1095 with some amber bone that I want. And like the fact that Case is selling knives now marked as 1095 tells me that Case's CV steel was never 1095. If I had to guess, I would say that Case's CV steel is 1075 high carbon. Something like that. Or maybe like 4140, 4150, something like that. It could even be that. I don't know how that would really affect it. That would be cheaper, but it would only be cheaper because you can buy giant things of it, and like Case could turn them into blades. So it would be like a, hey, we're buying industrial supplies instead of knife making supplies, so it makes everything cheap. And like that's the thing about it. They call it chrome vanadium steel, and that makes me think of 4150, 4140. And 4140 in particular is pretty damn cheap, and you can make decent knives out of it. That's my guess as to what Case's CV steel is now after seeing that they are marketing the new hotness is 1095, which I love 1095, so I'm buying Case's 1095 now. I'm glad that I didn't buy any of the others. Although I do kind of still want a large Stockman in micarta, and all the micarta ones they make are in stainless. So I might get me a stainless natural micarta Stockman eventually. But this is, how many fucking knives are we buying now? Like, Jesus Christ. Between the GEC fruit knife, the 2 or 3 Spydercos, a couple of Benchmades, like, basically that's like, hey man, I'm going to dedicate half all the money I make to getting my knife collection. How long is it going to take you? Oh, the rest of my life. Yeah, well, why? Well, because I'll never stop. That's the reality of it. I'm probably always going to spend some money on knives, and I'm trying to enjoy the stuff that I like that is cheaper, basically. And that's why we're looking at like Case knives and Opinels, and honestly, some of the Kershaws I'm buying are made in China, but I don't know. We'll see. The Kershaw Culpepers that I want are D2 steel made in China. I don't know if that's U.S. steel used in Chinese manufacture or whatever, but everybody who gets one, it falls in love with the action of it. So that's like the whole key to a slip joint is you got to nail having a good action and using decent materials, and the materials they're using look decent. And like this is what's always held me back from buying like a Rough Rider or something isn't, the quality of their production. It's I don't know what materials they're really using. And most of it's garbage. I like US made shit. But Kershaw has been around for a while, and they know good knives from bad knives, and they've imported knives from just about everywhere. They're kind of like Boker, a few other things where like Kershaw makes a lot of stuff, but they also buy a lot of shit and stamp their name on it. This is one of those things. But fuck, the couple of Benchmades, what, 100, 150 bucks a piece. The Spydercos are going to be 100, 150 bucks a piece. The GEC is going to be 150 bucks. Starts adding up, right? I don't know how many of those I'm going to get. The Case Trapper I want to get is only $67. So that's why it's top of the list. $10.95 burlap micarta. Looks dope. I don't know what I'm going to do after I get it and a Balisong, I think. I don't know. I also want to get a Stockman, so I'm playing around with what I'm going to get next. I'm definitely getting the Case Trapper. I might just get it and use the extra money to pay off some shit that I need to pay off. So I probably will do that. So it's like, what are we going to get the week after that? And this is where a sensible person would go back to gun parts or buy the roof rack for the fucking van. I don't know. I have a lot of shit I need to fucking do. My thing with the knives is some of these that's a good price on that. And if I wait, I won't even be able to find them new anymore. The case knife in particular, that it's been out for like a couple of years now, and I just saw that like a website still had them. I'm like, okay, well, and they were cheap too. I think people didn't buy them. Maybe, I don't know. I like burlap micarta, and I like trappers. I was shopping for a old timer trapper because my grandpa had one, and I always remembered that knife. So I wanted a trapper of some flavor, and the old timers look fine. They're, now made in China or whatever, and for fucking $60 you can get that case in $10.95. So I'm gonna get case. I wish I could find Grandpa's fucking Schrade old timer, but I don't know what happened to that. I got his buck knife, and that's one thing I actually need to go pay off, is I pawned a multi-tool and that buck knife a few weeks ago to pay for something else. I need to go get those back. But it's one of those things, like if you pay the fee to pawn it, you might as well keep it in there for a minute. It's my philosophy. I don't usually hurry just to go get it back. I try not to pay more of the fucking monthly fee things than I need to, but if we get it back next time, I'll just pay one. So I probably got to do that and get the case knife. I like pawning his buck knife because it's something that I won't ever not go get back. If I pawn other shit, I might decide that I'm not going to go get it back. It's also something that like I never use. Never will use. It's old, it's torn up. He broke the blade on it and repaired it himself. Like, it's not really even worth what they're pawning it for. I took it and a Leatherman juice that I have sentimental attachment to too. I got gas money a couple weeks ago. And this is the advantage, I think, of having a big box of quality knives, is at a pawn shop, maybe they're only worth $20 a piece, but they're always fucking worth that. And it's like, I also would have gold and silver and shit too, but like quality pocket knives are in there with that. They're in there with pistols. Like, if I'm making a bag of shit to fucking leave my house and I'm weight limited, I'm only going to carry gold and silver and fucking pistols and knives and shit. I know that doesn't really make sense to people, but that's all the shit that's worth trade value. And this is where, well, maybe you should carry food and clothing and equipment and whatever. You should if you can. If you're, running to better fortunes or whatever, the shit that's going to help you is not food for today. My philosophy. Real gold and silver, functional modern handguns, or even functional old handguns, and quality knives are the sort of shit that, like, I have always valued. Everyone I know has always valued. They're the kind of shit that you can buy and sell at a pawn shop. Like, tools are kind of in there, but I always thought of tools at a pawn shop was like, meh. It's the kind of thing that you go to a pawn shop if you need a tool for one day to do one thing, and it's $100 thing at Lowe's, you go to a pawn shop because you can just buy it, sell it back to them, and maybe you spent $30 and they gave you $10 back, so you paid $20 to fucking rent the saw or whatever. Either that or you just pay the $30 and keep the motherfucker. I've done that a lot too, but it depends on how broke you are, right? And like, if you're in a situation where you need a circular saw today and you will never need it again for another 5 years, you don't have to keep up with that shit or whatever. You're like living small. I get it. There's a lot of reasons why not to keep fucking tools around. I tend to try to keep some around, but I'm trying to think of what else I need pocket knife wise. I need balisongs, but like that's throwing fucking good money after bad in some ways. I think I'm gonna get the fucking Boker that I've been talking about for forever, and maybe a Kershaw. And that's gonna be it. Like, the Balisong market is even worse than like the Spyderco and the Benchmades and shit like that. Like, people are fucking just making shit that's $400 or $500 just to make shit that's $400 or $500. Nobody makes anything that's like a practical one to carry. Very few, anyway. I would consider most of the Benchmades to be practical to carry, but like if you're not gonna buy Benchmade, which I'm not, that really limits you on your choices. Kershaw makes the Lucha, but it has stainless steel handles, and I know I don't like Balisongs with solid stainless handles, so I'd have to replace that with something. And they make replacement handles for those in titanium, so that's a doable thing, and that's an upgradable thing. And those are only like $130. The Boker is $80. I don't know. I really like Balisongs, and it disappoints me that basically all of the market is either ridiculous shit or Benchmade, or the ones that I named. That's the entire Balisong market, pretty much. I don't know why it is that way, other than like people illegality shit again. Like, there's a whole bunch of places where it's illegal to carry Balisong, including Oklahoma. I just say fuck it. I carry one a lot. I think I've carried a Balisong more than any other type of knife over the last 10 years in Oklahoma. Part of that's just because I like them, and part of that's because they're illegal, and part of it's just, fuck them. Well, we are running out of battery, and we've been going at this like 50 minutes about mostly pocket knives now. I don't know. It's probably not wise to spend your money on pocket knives when you could spend it on other preps, but I'm doing what makes me happy at the moment because I kind of think we're all going to die. That would be my encouragement to all of you, is if there's something that makes you happy, I think you should go and do that too. I think some of this is why we're having so many like serial killers and shit happen. They've made it to where there's a bunch of people that like they're going and doing whatever they want to do. And the thing that they want to do is like skull fuck a severed head or some shit. I don't know what to say to those people. Don't do that. You know, seek help. Seek help. Seek help. Seek help. Both ways. Get it? Like the plant seek help versus seeking help. I'm hilarious. I'll see you guys later.